Very good morning, children. Welcome to session 3, reaching the age of adolescence. See, when we observe today's topic, that is sweat and pimples, then actually in our skin, we can find the two types of glands, that is sweat glands and sebaceous glands. Sebaceous glands means which can be otherwise called as oil glands. So sweat glands produce sweat and the sebaceous glands produce an oily substance, and we call that as a sebum. At evening time, while you are going to the home, if you touch your face with your fingers, you can feel that your fingers became very oily. Have you seen that? Yeah, that is a sebum produced by these sebaceous glands. So in adolescence, what happens means both this sweat and sebaceous glands. Sweat and sebaceous glands, they become very active. Active means their production becomes increases. Okay, and because of this increased activity of these glands, what happens means they develop pimples. These adolescents develop pimples, or which can be otherwise called as acne, right? And because of this more and more sweat, some distinctive odor. Odor means smell. Some smell also comes from this adolescent bodies, right? Okay, so whenever we are getting this kind of pimples and also this more sweat, then what you have to do at the time means, especially this pimples, we should not scratch the pimples. These adolescents are very much worried about these pimples, and when they are getting these pimples, they like to scratch them. Okay, but that's a very dangerous, and that leads to infection, to this infection of pimples, and the face becomes very dirty then, right? And always you have to wash our face with a mild soap. Mild soap means the soap which contains less chemicals. When you observe your soap, your toilet soap, there you can find one TFM, total fat matter. So the soap which contains more TFM, which a soap is having a more TFM value means that is the first one, Dove, and the next periods, like this. Okay, so we have to use only such kind of soaps, and always you have to use lukewarm water. Lukewarm means, okay, which is not too hot or too cold, right? So always we have to use such kind of water to wash these pimples, and even we should not worry about these pimples. Whenever you are going on thinking, because of this kind of a stress and a strain, what happens means this pimples activity becomes more and more. Okay, that's why we should not think about them and we should not worry about them. Got it? Okay, and these are quite common, and by taking this simple precautions or simple measures, we can control this pimples. If the pimples are more and more, then it is better to consult a skin specialist, or we can say dermatologist, right? Okay, and then come to here, you can find the picture of what is this. So here we can find the skin. This pimples activity is very much high. Okay, and what is the main reason for this means? Here, have you seen this? What is this? This is skin. Inside the skin, there's a black colored one, that is a hair follicle, and here we can find some orange one, that is a sebaceous gland or oil gland which produce sebum into this hair follicle. And here you can find, see, yellow substance, that is sebum. And when the bacteria and the dust enters this hair pore, we can find an opening over our skin. Okay, through that sometimes this bacteria and the dust enters, and they combine with this sebum, and so that that pore here, this sweat pore is blocked, and so that the sebum could not able to come outside, and because of that we can find the swelling like this. Okay, and because of this swelling we can find this pimples. Okay, so this is the way how this pimples develop and what we need to do against this pimples. Got it? Okay. Now let's come to the next one, that is the development of sex organs. So when the children come to this adolescence, then both the reproductive organs in the boys and girls, they develop to their maximum size, maximum level. That means in case of a male, both this testis and the penis, they develop completely. And even the testis, they start producing sperms. What are sperms? Means they are male gametes. And which this process can be called as a spermatogenesis. Genesis means production. Spermato means sperms. Production of sperms can be called as a spermatogenesis. And even in girls, this ovaries enlarge. Ovaries become, they grow to maximum size. And inside this ovaries, we can find female gametes. They are called as eggs. Eggs are the ova. And they mature. Mature means, that means they grow to their maximum size. And once the egg mature, then the ovaries, they start producing these eggs or the ovum. Got it? Okay, and then what are the other changes we can find here at this stage? Means in girls, this breast begin to develop. Okay, by means, so inside the breast we can find some special glands called mammary glands. Mammary glands means, so which help in producing milk. Okay, that's why as those glands develop, then that leads to development of a breast. And while in the boys, facial hair develops. Facial means a face. That means over the face, hair, different types of hair develops. What type of hair? Like a mustache. You know, over the upper lip we can find a mustache, and the next beard. Okay, that means over the chin we can find the hair, that is said to be beard, and even hair begin to grow over the chest. Over the chest also this hair develops. Got it? Okay, and then in both the boys and girls we can find one common character. What is that? This hair grows in armpits. In armpit, that is underarms, and even at genital regions. Like say that means at the testes and also at this vagina. Right? So these are the characters, or these are the properties that are developed during this adolescence. Right? And here what do you call these characters? Means secondary sexual characters. Secondary sexual characters. What is mean by secondary sexual characters? Means, say for example, there is a boy, and that boy is having a mustache, then a beard, and all the things. Now, can you say that whether he is a boy or a girl? You know, by observing this a beard and a mustache, you can say that he is a boy. He is a boy. That means how you are able to confirm he is a boy? That means by observing these characters like mustaches and the next beard like this. Correct. So the characters by which we can determine or we can decide the sex of the person, those characters can be called as secondary sexual characters. You got it? That means by observing these characters we can say whether he is a boy or a girl. Correct. So what do you call such characters? We call them as a secondary sexual characters, and this is very important for your exams. The definition and also this examples, or that is properties, right? And next one, primary sexual characters. Primary sexual characters means, say for example, when the mother delivers a baby, how can you say that the baby is whether a boy child or a girl child? How? That means by observing reproductive organs. By observing reproductive organs like the penis and testes or vagina like this. Got it? So when we decide the sex of the baby by observing these sex organs, those characters can be called as primary sexual characters. primary sexual characters. So, by observing these sex organs, if we decide the sex, then we call them as primary sexual characters. But when we observe the other characters like moustaches, beard, the next breast like this, then we call these characters as secondary sexual characters. Got it, children? And they are very, very important, right? So both primary sexual characters and also secondary sexual characters, right? Okay. Now see here, if you carefully observe this picture, we can find the secondary sexual characters in both boys and girls. Here in case of boys, first we can find this facial hair, that means over the face, mustache, beard, they develop, and even voice changes. You know, what is the change? The voice becomes a hoarse, and even in girls also voice changes. What is that? Voice becomes a soft. And see this hair grows over the means underarms and even over the chest, right? And what's the next one? There is a pubic hair. Pubic hair means there is at the genital part. At the genital part, hair develops. And the next one, ejaculation. Ejaculation means release of sperms, can be called as ejaculation. And even in case of girls also, we can find underarm hair develops, but we cannot find any facial hair. The next development of the breast, and even see the region below the waist, that is, we call that as a hip region, and that region becomes wider for what? That means for the pregnancy purpose, right, in the future. And even we can find this pubic hair, that is at the genital part. And what's the next one? There is a menstruation. Menstruation means there is ovaries start producing ova or the female gametes, right? So by observing all these characters, we can decide the sex of the person, whether there are boys or girls, and that's why we call them as secondary sexual characters. Got it? So these are very, very important, secondary sexual characters. Okay. Now let's come to the next one. Here these are newly born babies, and how we can say who is a boy and who is a girl? That means by observing reproductive organs. Say this is the testicles, and so we can consider he is a boy, and here this is a female part, and so we can consider this baby as a female child. So by observing sex organs, we are confirming whether the sex of the baby is a male or a female. Okay, that's why we call these characters as a primary sexual characters. Got it, children? Right. Then reproductive phase of life. Reproduction. What is meant by reproduction? Through the reproduction, we can continue the race. That means without ending of this race, we can continue. That means generation after generation. And how this reproduction takes place? That means by the fusion. That means when a male gamete and a female gamete combines with each other, then reproduction occurs. Got it? Okay. And when the children come to adolescence, then they are able to go for the reproduction. That means they get the capacity of reproduction. Okay, why means their reproductive organs like testes and ovaries, they start producing gametes. That means the testes produce sperms and the ovaries produce ova. Correct. And at what age? Means mostly in between 11 to 15 years. This is the range. Alright. So in some children at 11 years, this process may occur, and maximum by 15 years, so this process will start, right? So between 11 to 15 years, both testes, they start produce sperms, and the ovaries, they start produce ovum. Got it? And when we take the production of sperms and ova, so who have the capacity to produce gametes for a longer period? Means the men. That means in a males, this capacity, that means sperm production will remain for a long time. That means once the sperm production starts, this will continue up to the death, up to death. But in case of females, so this is very short period. That means, when the ovulation or menstruation starts, then this menstrual cycle will continue up to the age of 45 to 50 years only. 45 to 50 years. And at what age it begins? 10 to 12 years it begins, and continues up to 45 to 50 years. And after 50 years, ovulation starts. That means menstrual cycle completely stops. Correct. So this occurs up to limited time, but in case of male, it is a continuous process, right? And one ovum, we learned already, we have two ovaries, and among them only one ovary will produce a ovum. Only one ovary. Now see here, one ovary produce ovum in how much time? 28 to 30 days. That means for the formation of an ovum, it takes 28 to 30 days. That means it is a month process. Correct. We have two ovaries, but both the ovaries will not produce the ova, right? Only one will produce. Say for example, this month right ovary produced the ovum. Then the next month left ovary. Correct. In this way, this ovulation is a alternative process. Correct. And during this process, what happens means uterine walls. In a previous lesson, we studied about this female reproductive system, right? So uterus, the wall of uterus becomes very, very thick. Why means in order to receive this fertilized egg during this pregnancy. Okay, and the whole development of the baby will occur inside this. Okay, that's why in order to bear the weight of that zygote and the baby, this uterine walls become very, very thick. Okay, but of course, if this fertilization did not occur, then what happens? Then all these extra layers which are formed inside this uterus, all these extra layers, and the next this useless egg. Useless egg means unfertilized egg. When there is no fertilization, then that egg becomes ruptures. It ruptures. That means it becomes useless. So that useless egg and also the blood vessels. The blood vessels are shed off. Shed off means they get separated from a uterus and they get released to outside. And that leads to bleeding. In girls. And what we call this process means there is a menstruation. That is called a menstruation. That means all these changes will occur for every month. So this uterine wall thickens, and the next it is waiting for the pregnancy. Okay, but when there is no pregnancy, then whatever the changes that has taken place, all these changes will become normal. That means they get disappear. Correct? Okay, so it's about this menstrual cycle. Okay, menstrual cycle. And now let's come to the next one. And even this menstrual cycle, that means when some other girls, they feel that so this is occurring only that means just for me and not for others like this, and they feel that it is like a codes like this. But so it is a very common. It is a common for all the females, and this is a wonderful phenomena in order to make the female to a mother. Okay, in order to become mother, this process is very, very important. Correct. So when this menstrual cycle begins at the first time, what we call the process means the process can be called as a menarche. Generally this process occurs at the age of 10 to 12 years. Okay, and the first menstrual cycle can be considered as a menarche. Okay, and I told that so this menstrual cycle continues up to how many years? 45 to 50 years, and later this menstrual cycle stops. And what do you call that? That is called as a menopause. Here meno means a mention, and pause means a stops. Right? So first menstrual cycle is said to be menarche, and the last one is said to be menopause. Good. And when this menstrual cycle begins, in the initial stages, in the beginning, this menstrual cycle may become irregular. Okay, but so later, so this becomes regular. But when this becomes irregular, more than a year, and when they're not at all become regular, then it is better to consult this doctor. And who is the doctor? That is a specialist, and we call them as a gynecologist. Gynecologist means the doctor who deals with the female reproductive system, and also there's a disease related to female reproductive system, and they're experts in doing this deliveries and all these things, right? Okay, so it's about this menstrual cycle, and related to this menstrual cycle, in different parts of the world, especially in India, and of course in other parts also, the people are having some myths. Myths means some we call them as a moodanamakalu, like that. So in some parts of the world, the people think that means at the time of this menstrual cycle, they are untouchable. That means we should not touch them, and even we have to maintain some distance with them. Okay, and in some areas, even girls are restricted. Girls are restricted from taking bath. They should not take a bath, and even they should not cook, and even at the time, they are restricted not to attend the school. Okay, so whenever the children or the girls are not coming to the school regularly, that means because of this problem, then what happens? They may lag behind in their studies. And in some areas, what happens means, especially in some villages, in outskirts of the village, see this elderly people, they construct some huts, and the children who are in this menstrual cycle, so they should be inside these huts. That means away from the normal people. Okay, these are all trash, and no need to follow all these things. Okay, why means it is not at all a curse. Okay, some people think that that is their karma for girls. No, it is not karma, but it is a common process, and it is created by the God for the purpose of a pregnancy. Correct. It is a very, very common factor in all the girls. Okay, and so no need to worry about this, and no need to follow all this trash, right? And even here we can find the flow chart, how this pregnancy occurs means, in case of male, we can find reproductive organs called a testis, and the testis produce a sperm. And when you take this in female, we can find the female reproductive organs, ovaries, and from ovaries we get a female gamete called ovum singular, ova plural, but we have to use only ovum. Why means only one ovum produces at each time. Okay, now there's a two, that is a ovum and the sperms, they fuse with each other. Here ovum waiting for a fusion at a fusion. This is fusion at a fallopian tube. Where the fertilization takes place in the female body means at a fallopian tubule, right? And once this fertilization doesn't occur, then what happens? Then menstruation occurs. But when there is no menstruation, then what happens? Then it means that fertilization taken place. When there is no menstrual cycle, then at the time it means fertilization occurs. This is the common common way how the ladies they come to know whether they become pregnant or not. When this menstrual cycle stops for 1 or 2 months, then they come to know that fertilization taken place and they became pregnant. Got it? And once the fertilization occurs, then what happens? Then we get a zygote, and this zygote will develop into embryo, and embryo into what? That young one. Got it? Okay. So this is the way how this menstrual cycle occurs in the girls. Got it? Okay. And with this, we come to the end of this session. Thank you. Have a nice day.